Monday. I hope everyone's week is off to a fantastic start wherever you might be as you're listening to this. In the car, on the way to work, at home, out exercising. So happy to have all of you here. Today, I am interviewing a very, very special guest, Melissa Camilleri. She is here to talk all about entrepreneurship, taking risks, listening to our intuition, and the Prosper Network, which I am so excited to share more about in this intro. Two quick announcements before I get into that further. First, I want to remind everyone, I shared this at the start of last week's episode, I am hosting my first live workshop event Wednesday, May 22nd, 6 p.m. PST. Mark your calendars. There's going to be much, much more specific information to come, but I want to let everyone know that that date is set and trying to let everyone know as far in advance. That way you all can mark your calendars, block that time off to be able to attend this live online event. The second thing I want to share is at the end of this episode with Melissa, she is giving some details on a live 3-day event that her, Angela, and Sherry Salata are hosting for the Prosper Network. It's called the Prosper Era. This event is coming up April 30th, May 1st, and May 2nd. So I wanted to share that here just in case, for whatever reason, you don't make it to the end of the episode or you have to, you can only listen to half of it at a time. There's more details at the end of this episode on what that event is. I shared this on my Instagram, a few days back, that every live event they host is so impactful and informative and actionable. Even though I am a part of this network, I go to all of their free live events because they are just so impactful. But this is really fun because I feel like this conversation with Melissa is welcoming you all in to a little bit of the behind the scenes of my own life and my own entrepreneurial pursuits. We are talking about so many important facets of, being in a 9-to-5 and having that nudge to go off and do something on your own and start something that is, going to be so much more fulfilling, uplifting, impactful for you and for those in your life. How she took that leap from a 9-to-5 to entrepreneurship and the journey thereof, and then what led ultimately to partnering up with Sherry Salata, who is such a well-known name in this world. She's worked with Oprah Winfrey. She was the executive producer of the Oprah Winfrey Show. There's so much I could say there. I'll make sure her book is linked down below as well. How, Melissa, Angela, and Sherry all partnered together to create this revolutionary, never before seen women's networking group membership that has so much goodness packed into it. So I will make sure that down below in the show notes, there is a link to the Prosper Era free 3-day event. Make sure you guys sign up for that ASAP because you will get event recording. So if you can't actually make it live, don't let that hold you back. If you sign up, you'll be able to get those event recordings that you can watch back later, but you will only get those if you sign up. And then I will also include a link to just the Prosper Network if you are listening to this after that event has passed. That way you can still kind of dip your toe in and learn a little bit more about it. So without further ado, please enjoy this conversation with Melissa Camilleri. Well, Melissa, welcome to the Accrescent podcast, the Accrescent world over here. It's so fun to have you on.
Yes, thank you so much for having me on. I'm a huge Leanne fan.
Oh, you're so sweet. Yeah, we've been in each other's orbit for a few months now. And I'm excited about this conversation because I know bits of your story. Obviously, I'm in the Prosper Network, so there's so much we're going to talk about there and so much I can share of my own experience. But it's also like kind of a fun, selfish opportunity for me to get to know you better and your journey and kind of what led you on this road.
Yes.
So I think that's a great place to start if you're comfortable starting there of just kind of your entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah. Okay. So I like to think of myself as an accidental entrepreneur. I had no idea I would ever start a business growing up. I always wanted to be a writer, actually. So I thought I would end up in journalism and move to New York City, and I wanted to write for a women's magazine like Cosmo or Vogue or something like that. And it was my senior year of college when, I just graduated college when 9/11 happened. So it tells like kind of the age bracket that I'm in. And it totally freaked me out. And so I decided that I was going to stay put here in California where I was born and raised. And that led me to do some like deep soul searching. And I realized that what I really wanted to do when I was a kid and what I used to play all the time was being a teacher. And so I would line up my stuffed animals and I would give the lessons that I had just learned that day in elementary school. And so I thought, well, that was so prevalent in my childhood. I think that's what I meant to do. So I put this dream of writing to the side and I became a high school English teacher. And I thought I had just like hit the jackpot. I fell in love. I loved everything about my job. I loved the students. I loved reading literature. It was wonderful. And very soon into that experience, I realized that teaching is, I'm going to go on record, I'm just going to say it is the hardest occupation in the world. I think it's harder than surgery, and I've not ever been a surgeon, but it requires if you're doing it well, or if you're doing it in the way I think that we're called to do it in this day and age, it requires you to give so much every bit of your emotional self to students. And I was working in a situation where my students were amazing, tons of potential, but many of them came from backgrounds that weren't supportive of, or the most supportive of their future. So these kids all wanted to go off to college. They wanted to become doctors and nurses and lawyers, but came from families that were steeped in poverty or addiction or abuse. And they had no real adult examples of anything that they could be outside of like what they've seen in their neighborhood or maybe like on TV. And so the program that I taught in was to help these students who had tons of potential and very little means to become college and career ready. And they were amazing. So like I had them all 4 years. We studied for all the tests. We got them, all prepared. And at the end of their senior year, they started coming to me and saying, "Miss, you told me freshman year that if I were to do all of these things, just like you laid out for me, and you said I should do them, then I was going to be able to go to college. And I just got my financial aid package back, and it might as well be costing $1 billion trillion because there's no way that I can go." And so hearts were breaking all over. And I was all like, so gung-ho about educational equity. Like, why should it be that only the top kids from the best families get to go and pursue their dreams? Shouldn't every kid get that chance? And so I started a fundraiser. And this fundraiser was my first step into entrepreneur land. It was a fundraiser where I was making jewelry. And it started off because I was just making jewelry for fun as an emotional, like, things are intense outlet. At school. Yeah, outlet, like a creative outlet for myself. I wasn't very good at it, but I had ones to match all of my outfits, and I really like fashion. And anyways, I had one student come to me and she said, "Could you make me a ring for homecoming?" So I made her this ring. I just had her buy the beads from the bead store, and I think it was like maybe $4 to make. And then I gave it to her with a little note that said, "I'm so proud of who you've become," like just shining a light on who she was. So fast forward a couple of weeks later, prom had come and gone, or homecoming had come and gone. I had 22 orders that week to fulfill because all the girls started talking and they all wanted rings to match their dresses. And I wasn't charging them any more than it cost to make, just for the materials. But where the idea started was my student came back to me, one of them, and I had written all the girls the notes that went with these rings. And she was holding her binder. And on the back cover of her binder, there was a plastic cover and was the note that I had written her. And I said, "Oh, yeah, like I'll help you with whatever homework." I don't even know why she was at my desk, like whatever her question was. But I was like, "But you still have that note? That's so nice." And she goes, "Are you serious? Of course I have this note still." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And her eyes just filled up with tears, and she goes, "This is the nicest thing that anybody has ever said to me. People don't talk about me like this, and I never want to forget it." And it makes every time, I've told this story probably 10,000 times, and every time it makes me tear up, because the light that these kids had and still have, because I know them now as adults, they're in their 30s now, was just so bright and so incredible. And that other people did not see them the way that I saw them was just like, that smashed my heart into a million pieces. And there's a book called The Awakened Woman by Dr. Tara Wright Trent, who is an amazing thought leader. And she writes about what is your purpose, and like what should you pursue in your life when you are pursuing a life of passion and of meaning and of purpose. And she said, if you find something that breaks your heart so bad that it gets you into action, that's what you need to pursue. Well, the fact that these girls didn't perceive themselves in the way that I saw them, and the fact that they did everything right and were still coming up short, it was like, oh, well, obviously I went to school. I have a master's degree in writing. Obviously I have this English degree. So you know what I should do? I should start this jewelry company, right? Like there was an episode of Portlandia, which was like popular at the time when I ended up actually leaving the classroom, where it was about this woman who was going through a midlife crisis. And they're like, so what's your sister-in-law up to lately? And they sing this whole song about how she's making jewelry now and her life's all on track. And so when I left teaching to pursue making jewelry, and the whole company is called Compliment, and it was about it was about the physical gift, but it was really about the words behind it and how you could personalize it and shine a light on the goodness that you saw in other people. And people would joke with me like, oh, you burnt your life to the ground. And there's like a whole personal side of that. Like it happened all at the same time as getting a divorce and losing 3 loved ones in my immediate family. And so this business and my foray into entrepreneurship was equal parts an opportunity to heal myself, going through the deepest, darkest, like, I don't even know, like, big pit of grief that I think anybody can come out of. Like if it doesn't take you down, then that's like the deepest you could go with it and still get up. So being in this state of just like really, really deep grief and big change and unraveling a lot of the things that I thought about myself, that I thought about love, that I thought about marriage and career, and it combined it with the heartbreak of like, I got to do something about this educational equity piece, because these kids need more money and they need to know how incredible they are so that they can go off into adulthood with some self-efficacy or self-trust that they are worthy of all of these good things. So that was the crossroads. And I ended up leaving teaching, like I said. I built up this company within 18 months to, it was like massively tripled the amount that I was making as a teacher. I had so much more time freedom. And that was my first business. And that lasted 10 years before I burnt that down to the ground after I became a mom. So at the peak, actually. So there's been a lot of growth, a lot of change. And I don't think it would have happened for me any other way unless I was like massively kicked in the butt by God and said like, listen, no, this is your path. And I need you to trust that you'll figure it out. And that's kind of been my motto ever since. Like, I don't know where I'm going to be 5 years from now, but I'll figure it out. And it's been so much better than having tread that well-worn path that I was already on.
Yeah, there's such a great quote that I'm sure everyone's heard of, but it's like, God will never give you peace in something you're not meant to be in.
Oh, I've never heard of that.
Oh my gosh, I feel like I see it.
But it's so true.
But it's like, or like the peace leaves once it's time for a new era. It's time to step into something else, and being able to attune to that within us and go, hey, this thing used to light me up. It doesn't anymore. I feel like
Yeah.
I serve others best in a different avenue now, but having the trust, the
Hmm.
grit, the resilience, the bravery to just kind of take that leap of faith. I feel like every step I've taken in my own entrepreneurial journey has
Yeah.
been one step before the world would have told me to take it, right? Every
Yes.
step, if I had asked the logical world, like, should I do this? The logical world would have been like, no, absolutely not.
Right.
But
Right.
being able to just trust that deep, deep intuition of I'm being called to something, I'm being pulled to something.
Yeah. And I find that the people who have this entrepreneurial streak, who have this self trust to be like, I think I got to act on this, are often surrounded by a lot of people who are not that way and want to
Mhm.
keep us safe because being an entrepreneur is inherently risky. Now, to me, being on that well-worn path and looking at my old self, that was way riskier for my life.
Yeah.
But based on like the collective that was around me, um, not having a plan like all laid out, which I mean, entrepreneurship really is like there is no certainty in anything really, but there's this facade of certainty in a
Mhm.
traditional career path. And I don't know, I think the people who we surround ourselves with, well meaning, who love us, who want us to thrive, but maybe who don't see what we see, can sometimes tell us you're making a very unwise choice when really we have to be so tuned in to know that our inner wisdom will never lead us down the wrong path. It might be a different path and you might have to pivot, but it's never going to be wrong.
Yeah, yeah. You guys know what a coffee lover I am, but I have also these last few months been trying to be much more intentional about how much caffeine I'm consuming, the quality of the coffee that I'm drinking. And there are so many new products on the market that are combining coffee with mushrooms, other beneficial substances that just add to the overall effectiveness impact of the product. And I am always, always on the lookout for new coffee products, which is why I'm so excited to introduce you guys to Everyday Dose. This is a powdered coffee brand, and you guys know that I have shared other brands like this in the past, but this is the new favorite. This is top of the list. I have been drinking this every morning for the last 2 months. When I run out, I am legitimately sad and trying to get more of it as much as possible. I want to highlight a couple of the things about Everyday Dose that make it stand out from some of the other products on the market. First, they're combining coffee bean extract, organic coffee bean extract with organic mushrooms, nootropics, and collagen protein to give calmer energy, sharper focus. It also gives this added support to the gut, the brain, the immune system, and there's 80% less caffeine than other similar products, which is huge. It's been a big, big thing for me reducing my caffeine intake. Some of the things I love is the collagen. This is not a lot of brands are having collagen in their coffee powder. They have L-theanine. There is a whole list of the amino acids that are in this coffee product, organic chaga, organic lion's mane. But more than all of this, or I guess the cherry on top, is that this to me literally tastes like coffee. And there is coffee in it, but so many of the other prepackaged brands that I've had do not taste like coffee at all, or it's just like very, very subtle and it does not feel like a replacement. This to me is so delicious. I would drink this over a normal cup of coffee any day. I add a little bit of coconut sugar and some organic cream, and it's the perfect thing every single morning. Check out Everyday Dose down in the link below. I hope you guys get to try it, and I hope you love it as much as I do. With the link below, when you purchase your first bag of Everyday Dose coffee, you will also get a free starter kit that comes with a number of different goodies, as well as 5 free to-go packets of Everyday Dose coffee. something I want to sit with. I want to lean into this just for a second, and then we'll talk about sort of, how you became like a leader for entrepreneurs or a guide or a support. But
Yeah.
I have a lot of small business friends, acquaintances, connections. And then I also have a lot of clients and friends and family members who are kind of like where you were in that teaching job of, I'm feeling this nudge into entrepreneurship, into launching something of my own, but there's the fear, the risk, so many things kind of holding them back. And I'd love to just spend a sec kind of talking about like, what would you say to someone in that place of like, I feel these nudges to go do my own thing, to birth something into the world, but.
Yeah. So I think that sometimes stalling or procrastination or not taking action on something that part of us really wants to do, and then there's like a bigger part that's keeping us stuck, some of that can be attributed to you really aren't ready. And most online coaches or whatever, they won't tell you that. They'll say, of course you're ready. But I do think that we all have our own inner compass that is never, ever wrong. And your success is commensurate with how well attuned you are to that inner compass and to be able to act on it one way or the other. So in some situations, your inner compass is screaming at you and saying, get out. Get out of this 9 to 5, go do your own thing. You have been called. Stop sitting on the sidelines. It's your time. Go for it. And then we talk ourselves out of it because we're scared. What will people think? Blah, 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 blah. All the reasons. It's risky, whatever. And so there comes a time when you get a kick in the pants or you don't. And all of the entrepreneurs that I know, the successful ones, have not waited until they felt like, oh my gosh, I'm totally ready. I know all there is to know about starting a business. It's they had some sort of kick in the pants where the universe moved them because there was no other choice. And so in my situation, within 90 days, I went through a very sudden and traumatic divorce. I mean, I'm sure that there are divorces that are not traumatic. Mine was very public, very traumatic, terrible in all the ways. I had to have like triage counseling for a very long time to get over it. So there was that. And then I lost 3 family members. I changed jobs. I moved. So there was just like all kinds of transition that could last somebody a lifetime condensed down into 90 days. And that was God being like, listen to what I'm telling you. That's not the life. This is the life, and I need you to trust. I'm thick-headed, so I needed that, right?
Yeah.
Other people might already have this sense of inner wisdom where they're like, really, I'm just afraid of what my parents might think or what my spouse might think if I were to do this. And I haven't yet developed enough self-trust to know I'm not going to let myself down. And so that's what I would say is whatever you can do to develop your own self-awareness, your own self-trust, and maybe start taking little action and keeping promises to yourself, that's going to build your confidence in order to have this runway to jump and do something that seems like maybe like this impossible dream, because really nothing is impossible for us.
Yeah, something I used to journal every single morning was the universe offers boundless abundance. It's like
boundless.
The limit is what I make it.
Right, that everything is available to us right here, and the opportunity to be brave enough to receive those opportunities, to be open to what is coming to us. And the universe speaks to us in very mysterious ways. You're never going to get this. I mean, it's very rare that there will be somebody who says, hey, I just plucked you out of obscurity because I think that you should go and pursue this dream of such and such, and I'm going to give you permission, and I'm going to give you all the money, and you don't have to worry about anything. Like, that's not how it works. Everybody has to stick their neck out at some point to receive that kind of abundance. And it's the limits that we put on ourselves that keep us in, this status quo. Growing is uncomfortable.
Yep.
And we will create worlds to keep ourselves comfortable. That's just our that's like a survival mechanism.
Yeah. And it's also like what the thought that's coming up for me right now is, what part of me am I protecting or keeping comfortable in each of these decisions? If I
Yeah.
stay in this thing I'm in that isn't aligned, I'm feeling these nudges towards something more aligned that would really fulfill me so much more. If I stay, it's like I'm protecting my scared, limited self, which is okay. We want to listen to that self, but we want to expand
Yeah.
it. Versus if we make that decision to go, I'm going to protect and honor this dreamer self, this
Yeah.
ambitious self, this, intuitive self. That's kind of the thought that was coming up for me just now of I'm protecting one part and I'm ignoring another.
Right. Because what we say yes to, we're saying no to something else. And what we're saying no to, we're actually allowing or saying yes to something else. And so there's always both sides to that, right? So if I'm protecting this comfortable self right now, or which parts of my comfort am I protecting, then what am I saying no to? What am I blocking out? And vice versa. Wow, that is such a good question. And I think one that I don't think we stop growing until we're done, until our very last breath, and then who knows what happens after that. But in this lifetime, in this vessel, there's always, as long as there's another breath, there's an opportunity for growth. And so that's a question we can continually ask ourselves, regardless of what level of success we feel like we have achieved in this lifetime. So what parts of myself am I protecting to stay comfortable? Thank you. You just gave me a gift. I'm gonna journal on that tonight.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and so much of my process when I'm working with clients is we might get an answer to that question, and then it's okay. Now, it's not about dismissing any parts of ourself. This is
Right.
something I'm so, I work so much on with people, is that scared part still needs to be heard, but it
Yes.
also needs to be expanded to feel safer in this new journey, to feel safer in
Yeah.
this new venture, to trust you that you've got them, you're going to take care of them, whatever that looks like. So,
Yes.
yes, but I love those questions, and I'm very visual, so my audience knows. Like I give metaphors so often of like, here's your scared self, here's your safe self. What do each of
Yeah.
them have to say? So yeah,
I love that. And have them dialogue to each other is like, what a powerful exercise that is. I love it.
yeah, totally. In case you haven't heard, in 2024, we are no longer applying our natural deodorant, we are eating it. And let me explain. For the past few months now, I have been using It Just Works natural deodorant capsules. What I love about these is it's helping deodorize the body from the inside out. What we know about body odor from a more holistic perspective is oftentimes body odor is coming from internal imbalances. So, yes, we can use natural deodorants that help mask the odor from the outside, but it's not oftentimes getting to the root cause. It Just Works natural deodorant capsules help deodorize the body from the inside out. It's organic, there's no fillers, completely non-toxic, and clinically proven to help deodorize the entire body, not just our armpits. This includes oral odor, armpit odor, odor down there, if you know what I'm talking about. So check the show notes for a link to learn more and order your first It Just Works deodorant capsules. Finding clean skincare products is actually so much harder than it should be. And one of the reasons for this is so many brands are doing what we call greenwashing, which is where they're throwing labels and marketing on their products that say things like clean skincare, natural skincare, and yet their ingredients are full of so many toxic chemicals, additives, so many things along this line. If you guys have followed me for a few years now or listened to the podcast for a few years, you will know that I absolutely love herbal face food. There are so many amazing things I could say about this brand, but one of the many, many highlights is their product is used with 100% plants. It's not plant-based, it is 100% plants. Everything in this bottle is a plant that has been wild harvested somewhere around the world. They have 70 plus of the world's most anti-aging botanicals in their products, as well as 20 plus of the world's rarest botanicals. I have been using it, as I said, for several years now. It is such a staple in my routine. If I run out, I'm ordering it as quick as I can because I start to notice a difference. Nothing else supports my skin the way this product does. I have very sensitive skin, so I react to so many of these synthetic additives that are in many, many of the traditional or conventional products, even some of the quote unquote natural products. So discount code for Herbal Face Food is LAL20, LAL20. You can find it below in the show notes, as well as a link to shop their product line. Okay, so we went from, it's so funny because like you've always been pouring into people, but just in all of these different ways.
Right.
So first teacher, then this compliment business, then tell us kind of when we, as you said, burned that to the ground.
Yeah.
Where that took us from there.
What happened? Okay, so my first two kids, I have 3 children, and my first 2 were born 13 months apart. And this was in year, like 7 and 8 or 8 and 9 of Compliment's existence. So Compliment truly was my first baby. I poured everything I had. It gave me the courage to fall in love again, to remarry, which I never thought I would do, and then to take this a new quantum leap into motherhood, which changed everything about me and how I looked at the world and how I conceived of my own or understood my own mortality and everything. And what I realized shortly after my second was born, and I had a 1-year-old and a newborn, was that it's so awesome. I created my own business, so awesome. I had my own schedule, but I did not build it in a way to support me, the mother. It supported me, the single, and then maybe newly married. I have all day to work on this project, but I had no systems in place. I had very little in place to support this new me. And so that required me breathing into and coming to terms with I had to push pause. And I say that because when somebody said, well, why don't you just like knock it down to the ground? It was like saying, it was like my child. Like, how could I do that, right? So I gave myself permission just to push pause for a second and maybe do something else. So I started taking on jobs in training and facilitation in our local school districts and our county office of education. So I was traveling around, I was teaching a lot. So I still was like putting money on the table. And I just kind of let Compliment peter out a little bit until I was quiet enough to set my ego aside and say, really, this is done. Like, this season has to be done and it's going to be okay. And I don't know what's next. There was a lot of tears. It was a lot of like, but I don't want to, but I think this is right. And so it was a lot of negotiating, with what I was being called to do. And ultimately I ended up liquidating all of my physical assets. I kept all of my digital assets, but all my liquid assets I sold off. And this was at the very end of 2019. And we know what happened at the beginning of 2020.
Yeah.
And so had I waited even just a couple of more months, I wouldn't have been able to sell anything because everybody was freaking out. And so I feel like that was my reward, is that like no one knew that was coming, and I was so sad, and then there was such peace, like letting it go, and I said blessings over all of this stuff and said, go bless somebody else, and I gave away as much as I could, and then that was like, okay, it's going to be closed, and I don't really know what's next. Well, the pandemic happened, and during that time when everybody was home, I was doing odd jobs and supporting curriculum development from my teaching days with some of the contacts that I had made in this online entrepreneurial space, because I had an e-commerce business, but I knew tons and tons of coaches, and I'd done a ton of networking. And so in 2020, online education was just booming, obviously, because you couldn't go to conferences, you couldn't go to whatever. And so people are like, what can I do to get my course finally up and out? Or what can I do to like whatever? So they would bring me on because I have this whole background in education and many, many years of training and facilitating experience. And so I helped write courses and launch programming behind the scenes of some really big name online people. And in doing so, Angela Greaser, my partner, and now in this new iteration of my business, we were working on many of the same contracts. And as a way to basically reduce confusion for our clients, we found that what our jobs were and what our skill sets and what we were being hired to do separately as contractors really could not be done one without the other to have the best results. And so I come in and do like instructional design and program development and really understanding the client journey. That's my side of things. And what she was doing was systems, operations, and launching and marketing. And you can't have one without the other piece for somebody to truly have a successful online learning platform. And it doesn't matter what you teach. You don't have to be a coach. You don't have to be a whatever. I mean, we're totally industry agnostic. We've helped, I mean, like the gamut of industries is just ridiculous. But this like teaching and learning piece plus the marketing and messaging piece combined is what Angela and I do now in our company. We had known each other for many, many years, saw each other through pregnancies and having young kids right around the same age. And then when it was time in 2021, we combined forces and we created an organization called Stand for the And, which is basically a value statement, which is you can be a present parent and a very successful business owner. You have to have the education piece and the business piece. And so instead of really being in this like black and white either or rigid dichotomy of how things should be done, we like to stand for the and. It's both and in whatever way and capacity that we can find. So that's our biggest value in business.
I love it. Okay, now.
Okay.
How did we find Sherry? How did you guys get introduced? Where does this all begin? And then this is going to take us into the Prosper Network and all the yummy goodness that's happening there.
Yes. Okay. So Angela and I were networked with a group of people in the online entrepreneurial space that we had done some work for, and they were in a mastermind with Sherry Salata, who is the former executive producer of the Oprah Winfrey Show and the former president of the O Network, best-selling author. She's just amazing in so many ways. And she needed a growth strategist, which is what Angela does in her other business outside of the one that we share. She
You didn't say it's present parent and multi-business owner.
Yeah, right, exactly. Like we both own, Angela and I each own a separate business or two outside of what we do for Stand for the And. So we're like all over the place.
Yes.
But which is weird because now that we have so many awesome systems in place, we're working way less than we did in any singular business, which is amazing. Okay, so we met Sherry. Angela first met Sherry, became her growth strategist, helped her grow her membership community called the Support System to what it is today. And they have developed such a wonderful working relationship. Well, because Angela and I work so much together behind the scenes, they needed some support first in launching behind the scenes stuff, and then support with copy. And that's like one of my gifts. I have my master's in writing. That was how like everything comes full circle, right? Like whatever you spend time on is going to serve you later on.
For a reason, totally.
Right, exactly. So I got brought in for a few projects, and at the time, Angela and I were looking for ways to grow our own business, our Stand for the And business. So networking and relationship building is what I've built all of my businesses on. It's how I was successful as a teacher. And I'm really, really adamant about building relationships for business growth, but for just being, that's the kind of human I want to be. And we were looking for networks for people like us. And people like us, meaning we're kind of past the trolling Facebook group stage of trying to build a business, looking for clients, answering like random inquiries about stuff. And we aren't, I wouldn't say we're not, it's not that we're not at the level. We do not want to prioritize spending $50,000 a year for a mastermind, because that's not where we feel like that's the best fit for us. And it's not that we can't afford that, because I don't want to say like, oh, well, we haven't made it yet and that's like the pinnacle. We don't want to be it. That's not how we want to grow. Mm-hmm. So we were looking for this unicorn of a networking group, and I belong to a couple in-person networking groups, and they're okay. They're fine. But there was nothing online, and every new woman in business that I had met in this like time frame, I was like, where are you networking? Where are you finding clients? And they're like, people just send me emails, and I asked for referrals, and I was like, there's gotta be something. Well, we could not find it. So we created it, and it's called the Prosper Network. And as we were talking about it, Sherry said, I want in on that, because she hosts this network, and it had no professional networking component to it. It had all personal development, but not professional development. And so we're like, okay, let's do this together. And Sherry is like the most connected human on the planet, having worked 25 years, 30 years for the Oprah network, right? Yes. And so we're like, little old us, you want to partner with us? This is amazing. And I'm not going to pretend like that wasn't a big deal, because it's a huge deal.
Yeah.
And she's so generous and so thoughtful and so kind, and is like, yeah, like, you guys have built these businesses. Let's figure out how we can support all women who have business. And now she was like, listen, this year we're going to grow the Prosper Network, this networking, professional women's networking group, to over 1,000 members, because this is the future of how women should be doing business, which is, if I've got a door that's open, let me bring all of you through it. And that's how we manage the network, the three of us as founders. But it's also how we hope that all of the women who come into the network perceive themselves and the opportunities that they can create for other people, knowing that it's reciprocal. So our core values are generosity, reciprocity, and expansion. And already we've only been like a thing since, for like, I don't know, 4 months, 5 months. And already we are seeing tremendous growth, tremendous expansion for the people who are taking advantage of the opportunity of who else is gathered around this table and who they know. And so you're a part of the network.
Yeah.
And like, I am curious to know how it's benefited you so far.
Yeah. Well, and I am also interested to hear, because you've probably been in many more networking groups than I have. I know you have, just from conversations, but all the networking events, groups I've ever interacted with, it was like, so much was promised.
Yeah.
Little to nothing was delivered.
Yeah.
In-person groups, we'll get to this, but one of your values is give, get. Mm-hmm. And I feel like, if I had to say it, what I experienced in other groups, it's like take, maybe give.
Yeah.
And so I honestly was just like, F these networking groups. They're just never end up being worth my time. They always fall short. They're very surface level, the ones I have experienced.
Yeah.
So when I found the Prosper Network, when I found Sherry Salata, and there was so much in it that I was like, oh, this is amazing. I, of course, read her book. I just love her energy, her sentiment, her wisdom in so many different things.
Yes.
But within a month, I was blown away with how many opportunities there are with the weekly speed networking, where we're literally like, hey, here's who I am. Here's how you can help me. How can I help you? And like, we're just doing that on repeat, week after week after week. And it's so tangible, but also how present Sherry is
Yes.
in so much of this. To have a big
Yes.
name on something, I have also been a part of other things under the umbrella of a big name, and it's really just a name
Yes.
that's been like slapped onto something that they're really not a part of in any way. And
Right.
I have been so beyond impressed with how ingrained she is, how much face-to-face time we all get to learn and connect with her.
It's remarkable, actually. And for somebody who's at Sherry's level of success, she doesn't need the money. She doesn't need the ego stroke or the status symbol of like, all these people are fawning over me. She really puts her heart and soul into how do we elevate more women, because that's who she is as a human being. And I love that. And I don't think this would have worked in any other way for Angela and I to find another partner like Sherry. She's one of a kind. She's so incredibly generous and thoughtful. She shows up Monday through Friday every single morning and leads meditation.
Yeah.
And that's for whether or not you are in the professional network or just the personal development network. It's open to everybody who's a part of either one. And I think that alone is worth the cost of admission. Monday through Friday meditation for $100 a month. It's $97 a month. It's not even $100, right? For $97 a month is like, that alone would be enough. But she brings in all these thought leaders and functional medicine doctors, and there's a book club, and there's a writing circle, and there's people who are implementing fitness and just like every aspect of your life to up level, in addition to the Prosper Network, which is where people go to expand the businesses that they've created. And so it's so packed with value, and it's so supportive because the people who we are gathering are all saying the same thing. Every other networking opportunity I've ever had is like, here's who I am, here's my card, what can you do for me? What can you do for me? What can you do for me? And that's just not the energy of the Prosper Network. It's really about give, give, get. It's about showing up. How can I be of service? Where can I offer expansion to you? Knowing and trusting full well that it's going to come back to you in some way, shape, or form. Maybe not tit for tat. Maybe not this person was on my podcast, so I'm going to be on their podcast. But that opportunities are abundant. And the more that you are in the swirl, the more opportunities come your way. And it's working. Like this experiment that we put together is working, and it is one of our proudest things that we've ever created. To see how it's benefiting everybody involved, that was the vision.
It's such a no-brainer. It's like the easiest $97 I have ever spent.
Yay.
I mean, literally, I would pay triple the price for what I'm getting. You know what I mean?
For sure. For sure. In fact, I was for just a professional networking situation that was not even, I think we had the opportunity to meet up twice a month, and it was really just a glorified Facebook group.
Yeah.
For $300.
Yes.
And I was paying that gladly because at least there were some contacts in there for people that I could meet. This is like not even that.
So we have touched on some of the pieces of being a part of this network, but let's kind of go through it A to Z. Let's say someone gets online. They're like, okay, let me check this out. I'm going to sign up. Yeah. What can they expect in their first, month, 2 months of what is going on in this network?
Yeah, that's such a great question. So somebody signs up and immediately they're going to get in their inbox an opportunity to jump into our asynchronous online portal called the Prosper Network. It looks similar to a Facebook group, but it's housed on Mighty Networks. And it allows the user to create a profile, to say a little bit about what they do. So it's like their online presence. Immediately, they can list themselves in our Prosper Network directory, which gets circulated quarterly to over 100,000 contacts on many important people's lists, including Sherry Salata. We have members of the Prosper Network who have actually gotten clients from just that distribution list, which is amazing. Immediately, you can start making connections with other members in the online platform. And immediately, you can RSVP to our events section. So within our events section in the online portal, we have events at least once a week within the Prosper Network. So you had mentioned speed networking. Speed networking is very much as it sounds. It's like speed dating, where whomever shows up to this 1 hour live event gets broken up into breakout rooms where you have a short thing that you're asked to say about yourself, what your ask is, and how you might be of service to other people. So it's a way to quickly make new contacts, get contact information, and the opportunity to follow up. So it's sort of like shuffling a deck of cards and a live touch point where you get to meet a whole bunch of new people. Each week there's an opportunity for that, but if you however many times you want to go a month is up to you. You also get full access immediately to Sherry's personal development side of the network called the support system. And that's where there's the weekly, daily meditation, the weekly gathering with Sherry, which is sort of like her little TED Talk or like a sermon or something where you can gather and she shares some wisdom. Immediate access to all of the subgroups on the personal development side that may support what you're working on in your life, whether it's working on your writing or your creative expression or your fitness or your holistic healing. So it's accessible 24/7. There are so many similar value-oriented people, or women, and those who identify inside the network that you could start meeting immediately, and ample live touch points each week that you can get on your calendar as soon as you join.
Yeah, and you get to go back through all the past recordings. Like, it is a university in there. There is
a university
so
of growth.
Yeah, all the past guest experts, and to your point, it's Sherry. She has connections and access to some of the biggest people in the world. So to be able to go back and listen to those conversations, and then when she has them live and you get to join live, like, you get to raise your hand and speak sometimes and connect with these other people. It's just so profound. And I do want to speak to the speed networking quickly, because something I was thinking about as you were talking is, even in these in-person network events I've been to, they call it networking, like, come network. And really it's just like, hey, come in this room, there's food, talk to people.
Yeah, and it's awkward.
Like, there's not quite enough structure where I'm actually going to like walk up to someone, at least I'm not, and be like, hi, random person I've never talked to before. Here's what I do.
And that's how they all are. There's not enough structure.
Oh my God. And so it's like the intention is there, but the execution and like the structure of it is just not actually fostering what everyone hopes it's going to foster. And so I actually love how structured the speed networking is. But I also really want to speak to this because I think it's so important. And it's one of the things that has been most impactful for me is just showing up to those speed networking events, like, lights me on fire. And it just like gets me back, because you get kind of caught up in the day-to-day of your business and all the things and the logistics and and you just sometimes start to feel like sluggish or stagnant. And so when I go into these sessions, I come out of that like, okay, let's go. What's the next thing I'm going to do? I'm going to go help this person out. I got to go do this thing for them. They're going to go do this thing for me. And it keeps throwing these gentle logs on the fire.
Oh, I love that feedback. And it's true, because I think it's because people are showing up with a heart for service first. It's how can I serve you? So that gets us going. It's not like, oh, more things I have to do. I just pitched all these people. Hopefully somebody chooses me. That's like that kind of energy that is sluggish and heavy. And this way it's like, oh, I made a connection. I can help this person. So then you get into that flow of things, and people are also feeling that about you. And then these opportunities just start landing in your inbox, and you're like, yay, cool, let's go.
Yeah. And it's just so specific, right? Like, giving an example, I can sit down in these networking events and go, hey, what would really support me so much this week is I just launched a podcast. If everyone could go listen to the first episode and leave a review, like you can
Yes.
get that specific.
Yes.
I just launched a new page on my website. Can everyone go read through it and tell me what you think?
Yes.
It's not
That
just like, hey, maybe one day if someone comes along that you could refer to me, could you do that? Like you really can get into the nitty-gritty of this week, today, what am I needing support with? And
right.
it can be so hyper specific.
Right. We've had people who've said, I'm looking for a contact at one of these big companies in Silicon Valley. Who do you know that handles speaking for Pinterest, Facebook, Google, da 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 da? And somebody goes, oh, my brother-in-law's neighbor works for Google. Let me shoot him a message. And it's things like that how would you ever know? And it's not just, oh, maybe they'll become a client or I really need clients out of this group. It really truly is a network. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
We have somebody today who came to Speed Networking who goes, this is very specific, but I'm looking for an in-person receptionist in San Diego. And I don't live in San Diego. I live in Sacramento. But I know people who live in San Diego. So I asked for her job description and I'm going to circulate it around with people who live in San Diego that I know. And part of those people I'm related to, some of them are old colleagues who have moved there. But like you just never, every single person who joins a network like this also brings with them a full network of people that you don't yet know. And to me, that like bends my brain in the best of ways because we all truly are interconnected. And to think, oh my gosh, yay, a new person just joined the network. I wonder who they know that we get to know.
Yeah.
How exciting.
There's so many. I think this is all of you, Sherry, Angela. I really do believe that we attract what aligns with us. Mm-hmm. I attract in clients who are what I'm looking for. And so I have found that because of the very conscious intention you three have set with this network, you are attracting in those people who want to be reciprocal, who want to be giving. And like, again, same thing, like in some of these other kind of random networking stuff, I haven't seen that where it's like, I'm meeting some people here and there, but they're not really actually people that I'd want to connect with super deeply. So I just think that's super, super beautiful. It's such a nurturing, uplifting, authentic space.
Yay. That's music to our ears because we have been very intentional. It's not by accident that it was designed this way. It was very well thought out. Our language is very, very specific on purpose because we are looking for that type of person because that's how we feel like we are going to revolutionize what it's like to be a woman in business, which historically we've been left out of conversations, left out of funding, left out of other things. And women biologically are wired to connect and create community. And so that is how we think the future of business is leaning as, and not to get too like deep and I don't know, weird about it, but as patriarchal structures are crumbling, this is what's moving into place. And I think that we're pioneering a new way of doing business, and it feels really good and really exciting where everybody wins, not just the people who are running the network, but the people who are involved, and not just the people who are involved, but all of the people that they touch in their business as well. So even clients are on the winning end of all of the goodness that we're stirring up in this pot and in the Prosper Network. So I'm so glad it's been beneficial for you.
Yeah, it's been huge.
Like,
I mean, you know, because we see each other weekly.
We do.
The last 2 months, my business has blown up, and 100. Like I attribute so much of that to being a part of this community and this network that is so uplifting and inspiring and actionable and tangible and all these different things. So
fantastic. It's exactly what we want to hear, where everybody is like bursting at the seams and going, oh my goodness, I cannot believe that my business has grown like this, and this is what I attribute it to. That's the dream. That is what we dream of. And then it makes it such a no-brainer to stick around and see, who else do I get to meet? Who else can I help?
Yeah. 1,000%. Like the easiest, are you kidding me?
I know.
$97 a month, the easiest business
I know.
expense I've ever made. Okay, last
Okay.
thing, and I promise I'll
Yes.
let you go.
Yes.
Can we talk about the Prosper Era event?
Yes. Okay. So if you are, I think this is going live the day before we start the Prosper
Yeah.
Era. Okay. So tomorrow we kick off the Prosper Era, and the Prosper Era is a 3-day free event. So if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, I want to get in on this Prosper Network action, but I want to dip my toe in and see what it's all about, the Prosper Era is what you have to be at. It's going to be at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So that's April 30th, May 1st, May 2nd. And each day we have different programming. So day one is really going to be about understanding what the current status quo is in business today, how we have previously shown up, what opportunities have previously been extended to us, and how we might identify some areas of growth for where we want to go in business. Day two, Sherry Salata is coming to join us live and sharing what the vision is for where the Prosper Network is going and how to get involved, which is really about women supporting women, kicking doors open and holding them open for our sisters in business so that everyone thrives, because a rising tide lifts all boats. And then on day three, we are actually going to practice a free session of speed networking. So as of right now, we are still, as of recording this, we're a week out and we've already had 350 amazing women register for this event. We still have a week of promotion left, so I know it's going to be huge. And what's going to be wonderful is that during this day three experience, I mean, there'll be opportunities to meet people all 3 days, but on this day three experience, you will literally walk away with new contacts. And that is, I don't show up to webinars and leave with actual business contacts, right? It's just sitting and listening to a sage on the stage. This is different. You're going to get in there and you're going to be prepared to know what to say and how to serve and walk away with actual contacts. So we really, really are excited about it. It's going to be huge. It's going to be beneficial and give you some, whether or not you decide to join us after this Prosper Era networking event, you are going to walk into your most prosperous era, because what you're going to get from these 3 days are going to set you up to prosper in the next months to come.
Oh my gosh, I love it. So I'll make sure in the show notes, there's a link to the Prosper Era event.
Yes.
For anyone listening to this after that event has passed, there'll also be a link just to the Prosper Network where you guys can learn more, sign up if it's of interest to you. But that is going to be such a gem of an event. I think I shared on my Instagram stories today. I was like, I'm a part of the network and I still go to these free events because they're so juicy and impactful. Impact after impact. Every single thing you guys put out is so actionable and impactful and informative.
Yay.
So
Thank you for saying that. We work really hard to make it worth people's time, because there's nothing that, like, all three of us are very what's the word? Like, just itchy about wasting time. And so many free live events are like listening to somebody's rags to riches story and then pontificating it as one big sales pitch. And it's not like we're very clear. We are opening the doors for enrollment to the Prosper Network. So that's not like a hidden agenda. That is what this is for. But even if you decide not to join the Prosper Network, you will walk away with so much value from these 3 days of the Prosper Era event, for sure.
Yeah, it's not just listening to an inspiring story. It's I'm actually going to walk away, even if I don't sign up, with a ton of value from this experience. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. So come one, come all. We are so ready for you. We can hold a few hundred more people. So I
Yeah.
hope they come from you. Yeah, it's so fun.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Melissa. This has been so much fun to get to hear more of your story. And I'm so ecstatic. I mean, I'm already in it, but I am so
Yeah.
ecstatic for where it will continue to grow, the Prosper Network. And also
Yeah.
just like as a cheerleader of you guys, ecstatic
Oh,
to
thank
see it
you.
start to grow and where it will lead. So,
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so, so much for having me. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate it and what amazing work you're doing in the world. And I cannot wait till I'm able to get down to Southern California and give you a hug in person.
yes, totally. Oh my gosh, I know.
Yeah,
So many fun places to go to.
yeah, for sure.